Computer.
Yep.
Okay, so hey Kit, I'm here today with Kit from Perfectly Imperfect Yogis, coming all the way from Bali. Thanks.
Hello.
Thank you for your time today, Kit. It's so lovely to have you.
You're very welcome. It's super nice to be here.
It is. And I just wanted to have a quick chat to you just about yoga and the mind-body connection. And I'm just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your story. So how you got into yoga, and I love your name, Perfectly Imperfect Yogis. Tell me a little bit about that. How did that name come about?
Well, I think I started, like, I've always had fitness in my life. So from being an aerobics instructor, and I've got an intermediate level RAD from years and years ago. So dance's teaching certificate. I took up ice skating for a while. That was super fun. So I've always been a bit of a sporty spice. But in my adulthood, I really suffered anxiety and depression because I just had a complete disconnection to the self. But I was really, really good at shopping. So that disconnection to the self resulted in me having heaps of shoes and handbags. I was so good at shopping. I still am. Yeah. So, I started this on-off relationship with yoga, and my first yoga class was a Bikram yoga class. And when I couldn't even tell you who inspired me to go to that class, or, maybe I read it somewhere that it was like a new crazy thing to do. And I'm like, I'm up for crazy. And off I went. And I really spent that 90 minutes in a combination of wanting to throw up and wanting to run out the door. But I chose neither of those options. I stayed in there because I'd paid $25 for 7 days, and you're allowed to go for 7 days, and I was going to get my money's worth. Yeah. So at the end of that 90 minutes, I kind of hobbled out of class and went, what the hell just happened? And then just went, it actually wasn't that bad. I'm going to go back and try that again. So I went back, and then at the 7 days, they've got you by the short and curlies, and all of a sudden, you've become a little bit of a Bikram addict. Wow. But then, and I think people will have that. If you've been to a Bikram class, you have that experience where you can see the changes and you can feel the results, and it feels really brilliant. But it's 90 minutes out of your day, and you're sweating balls in there. So it's the getting there, it's getting into that class, it's being in the zone, and then you get out and you're half dead, and you're sweaty, and you've got to have a shower, and then so by the time you're in and out of there, it's 2.5 hours. So that's a big chunk of your day. So you have this on and off again relationship with Bikram, where you go, you feel really good, and then you go, oh, I actually just need a break because this is not sustainable in my life. And then you go when you're feeling really crap again, and you go back. So that's the cycle that happens. And I, as a carryover from my from probably when I was like 10 or 11, when I recognised in myself my first experience of those experiences of anxiety, that manifested full-blown anxiety and depression in my adult life. So when I was probably in my 30s, and I would literally have blackouts where I couldn't walk out the door and I couldn't see in front of me. So I had this on-off relationship with yoga, and I would go and try different styles, Iyengar, Vinyasa, Hatha, and I'd try it in the gym because I was still trying to go to the gym, and I had a personal trainer that was, trying to crack a whip on me. Then eventually I'm working in hospitality, and I'm working as a consultant by this stage, puppy wars. And so I was in a yoga class in Port Hedland, which is in the far northwest of Western Australia, and I'd gone up there to do some consulting work and ended up staying up there. And I was probably by this stage in my, been up there for about 18 months. And I was in this girls' yoga class, and classes are pretty sporadic up there because there is no yoga school. Teachers were, it's a FIFO community.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So it's predominantly mining based. And so there's not a lot of, there's definitely structure there, but in terms of yoga, there was nothing permanent there. Anyway, so I was at this girls' class, this lovely teacher that we had, Tara, and she said the word Ahimsa in class. And I remember being in pigeon pose and her saying that, and then going into a definition or a description of what that Sanskrit word actually meant. And Ahimsa means non-violence. And she started to describe that, saying non-violence meaning, you know, your self-talk and practicing kindness towards the self. And I was like, and kindness to other people. And I was like, I mean kindness towards the self. I was like so taken aback by that. And then there was kind of a discussion about, you know, your inner talk, your inner dialogue, and speaking to yourself from a place of loving kindness and encouragement. And I was like, I haven't been doing any of that. What do I mean? And I felt really disappointed that I hadn't known that, but I felt really blessed that someone had finally said something, because by this year I'm in year, probably 9 or 10 of my yoga practice, my on and off yoga practice. But by this stage, I was kind of wanting to go back to it like more and more frequently. And she said that, and I was like, my God, I've been doing this for so long and no one's ever said anything even remotely philosophical about yoga during those yoga classes that I'd been going to. It had all been about the bendy, stretchy stuff and, you know, working up a sweat and getting a result. So really results orientated. Like no one even did, you know, pranayama, breath work, or an introduction to meditation, which is the entire purpose of the yoga practice.
Yeah.
So just going for a bit of a backtrack, I, during my anxiety and depression years, and it was 7 years, medicated, had law, psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, like all ists, they were all present. And not one of those, well, actually, none of those guys ever mentioned pranayama. So the breath as a tool to manage anxiety, which is if anyone says says that they have anxiety, I'll automatically just go try this and give them a couple of breath tools to work with. And I'll just my automatic response is try this. And they're like, oh my God, you just changed my life. Because they want you to keep coming back. Right. Yeah. And I only ever had one of those therapists ever say that yoga might be a good idea for me, but I just wasn't ready to hear her message. And she was like a Zen master, and I was like, wow. So I was like, just fix me. She was like, and she was like, and I'm like, oh, I just need to be fixed. So yeah, I didn't get the message then. So that was really interesting. And by this stage, because I'm in Port Hedland and my anxiety, because I've been consistent with my practice, that anxiety and depression had pretty much gone away. And I've been able to
it's incredible.
Medication. And I honestly attribute my life right now and being on this planet and still in this life to yoga, because I'm pretty sure I've taken my own life.
Yeah, now. That's amazing.
If it wasn't for this practice. So that's, and like that makes me cry, because like I think how impactful such a small thing can be.
Exactly.
4-letter word, just, you know, change my life. But yeah, so she said that, and I was like, right, Ahimsa, I need to hear more, I need to learn more. So I went on a mega mission. I was reading, I was learning, I was studying. I did my first YTT online because there was no teacher trainings anywhere else. And I'm in Port Hedland in the middle of nowhere. So, you know, there's, you know, no studios, let alone teacher trainings. And it was before this 500 hours was before you could even register, because you can now register with on your online trainings with Yoga Alliance as a teacher. But back then you couldn't. But I didn't care. I just wanted to know more. And it was a fabulous thing, because from there I opened Portshed Yoga. So before I'd even completed my first YTT, I opened a yoga shala. And I opened it. And it was Port Hedland's first yoga shala, and I just went, there must be other people that want to go somewhere to do this, like more frequently than what we have. So I hired a space, and well, the universe gifted me a space. It was pretty awesome. It was a shed, literally. And I got in contact with the other teachers in the community, and we created a collective, and we started Portshed Yoga. So there were teaching in there, and I taught my first classes before I'd even finished my first 500 hours. But you have to go back to the fact that I have so much other teacher training behind me, not specifically yoga, but years and years of experience. So I wasn't just turning up without a full gamut of knowledge, but like I studied like a psycho. Even the other teachers around me, they were like, I've never met anyone that like is just so studious, so hungry for information. And I was like, I've got to catch up. Anyway, so we opened Portrait Yoga, and in my class, my first class, I had 37 people that showed up and wanted to know more about what yoga was and what it meant, and they were desirous of learning more. So that made me cry, and Portrait Yoga went on to deliver weekly classes. Like, I mean, we had classes 7 days a week, morning and afternoon. We delivered retreats and workshops. From there, I was doing another course, and someone came into the Shala and said, would you like to run my yoga studio in Bali for 6 weeks while I'm away? Because I was like, oh, I've got a super yogi in my class. What's going on? She's really amazing. I've got like an Insta yogi in here. Better like, you know, better put my big girl shoes on and like game face together. Anyway, we became really good friends, and she does have a beautiful practice, and I ended up coming to Bali and managing her and her partner's Shala while they went to India to do further study. And I was enrolled in another course, and I had as a hospitality consultant, an office that was about the size of your toilet.
Okay.
You know, your back shed toilet. Like, it was my computer, a printer, my chair, and if someone else went like this, they could squeeze in. That was about it. And that's where I did my teacher training, like at that desk, and that's where I was doing this other course. And Perfectly Imperfect Yogis was born in that office.
Wow.
And it was a result of like just going, everything's perfectly imperfect, and it was about self-acceptance and self-love, which is what I learned was missing in my life, and that I was trying to fill that void with all these other things. Unable to sit with any emotions that came up within me, I just went straight out. Instead of saying, oh, what's going on here, let's look at that, I'd go, crap, not dealing with that, let's go shopping. And I was like straight out the door.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was a distraction technique. I was right out the door.
Wow.
So that's where Perfectly Imperfect Yogis came from. The fact that we're the need, that we all need to accept who we are in this present moment, perfect or imperfect. There is no perfection. Our desire for perfection, creates so many barriers to everything that is beautiful and wonderful in this world. So that's how that came about.
Oh, I love that name. That's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, the course was about me trying to understand how I was going to best use the tools that I have from my whole life to help other people minimize their pain, to not have the 30 years of pain experience that I had, so that they can find the connection to themselves and have more joy and happiness in their life. So that's how Perfectly Imperfect Yogi came about. When I was in Bali, I just went, I don't need to be in Australia anymore. Like, the whole point of this is to live from my heart center and with my soul song, my soul print. And that is not in Australia. And I don't think it's actually ever been in Australia, but I kept going back there, trying to do the right thing that we've all been programmed to think we need to do.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. What an adventure, hey? And so what is your opinion on, obviously you talked about with your anxiety and how that coming back to your true self and self-love. So how does yoga really connect you with your body? Like, I know with a lot of the people that I work with and my clients, they're very disconnected from their own selves and their body. So can you explain how yoga really connects you? Like, how does it connect you into your body and back into yourself as that whole self?
So the word yoga means union. So it actually means to yoke or to join. And when you learn that and understand that yoga is not the bendy, stretchy stuff, that yoga is a 4-letter word that encompasses everything that goes on in your life, you start to think about different aspects of the self, I guess. But in answer to your question, the connection comes through breath.
Breath, yeah.
So that first understanding that, that autonomous system, the breath just keeps us alive in this space. I don't even understand, scientifically, I understand how it works, but wow, just mind blowing. I'm just going to go, and all this fresh oxygen is going to come in and my body's just going to keep doing amazing stuff, right? Amazing. I don't think I'd even thought about my breath apart from my anaerobic capacity and let's do a VO2 max test and see what I can, see what I can do, what I'm capable of. You don't need to do that, just as an aside. So I think that body to breath connection and what the yoga asana does. So most of us have a vision of going to yoga, rolling out a rubber rectangle, our yoga mat, and jumping on that and trying to do some bendy, stretchy stuff. And I guess it's in that word try. Yeah. Because as you try to do that, the mind gets so distracted with sausages and watermelon, what you're having for dinner, what you're having for dessert, that you actually are never really present in that moment on that rubber rectangle. So once you stop thinking about sausages and watermelon and you actually connect to the breath and you find that place of evenness and that flow that just allows you to be very present in the moment, not going over here or going over there. And it's what we call in practice, we call it Sthira Sukhanasana. And that Sanskrit term actually means steadiness and ease.
Wow.
So to find steadiness, and it's such a beautiful expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I first heard that, I was it was kind of like this reminder to find peace in my personal practice. So I describe that as finding your own personal peace. And because Sthira Sukhanasana is a really big word.
Yes.
3 words. But, and it's not the easiest to remember if you're a first-time practitioner, but I think the words personal peace kind of
resonates a bit easier.
Rolls off the tongue a little easier, maybe. So that connection to breath and finding your personal peace in each of the shapes that you explore on the rubber rectangle is what initiates that change. So from there, because the whole purpose of our yoga practice, or the asana aspect of our practice, is to unbind the body from all the things that our current modern day lifestyle throws at us. So driving, shopping, moving forward, tight hip flexors, maybe kyphosis here because we're always typing, or we've got sore necks because we're on the phone and trying to push the trolley in the supermarket. All of those really the things that we take the technology for granted, which has made aspects of our lives so beautiful, but we also have neglected aspects of our lives that balance that out.
Exactly.
So the asana practice enables us to find that connection back to the self, realign the spine, find that personal peace, unbind the body, and stay in meditation for longer, because that's the goal of the practice, is to find stillness of the mind, stillness of the physical self, stillness of the mind, so that you can explore what sits beyond just the thoughts that are running around in the brain, those ruminations. And I've read statistics where 98% of the thoughts that we think are things that we've thunked before. You just go, what? And when someone first told me that I could decide what I think, or I was the curator of my own thoughts, I was like, she's talking about Willis? So, what do you mean?
I know, but it's true.
Here, Now, like, you know, this was one of the things, like just talking about going back to anxiety management. If you have ruminations, so most of those ruminations will be negative, and this is like a downward spiral of, you know, the thought loop that keeps going around, and the brain wants to close off a story.
Yeah.
It wants to have a full picture. So in order to create that full picture, it starts to create the end of the story or a myriad of outcomes until it's satisfied with a particular outcome, which generally ends up in a negative space somewhere, because, you know, that's our programming and our patterning.
Exactly.
We're taught to think of the worst things that happen to us, which is why we have car insurance, life insurance. We need to buy our coffins before we're dead. Like all of that, you know, that fear and loathing that, you know, make us fearful of actually living our lives and restrict us. Yeah, so in order to break those ruminations, the brain actually can't hold two thoughts at once. So if you have that thought loop and you can, through meditation or however you find that stillness, actually go, oh my God, that's so annoying, that thought loop, and go, I really like the stars outside, or, you know, I'm going to look up at the universe, or just shift your perspective and change that thought to something that brings you joy. Eventually, the more often you cut through that rumination, it goes away, because the brain just goes, oh, I've got something else more entertaining to think about that's, you know, nicer or happier. And you know, the visual cortex of the brain actually cannot differentiate between what you see through your actual eyes and what's in the mind's eye. And that, you know, the fact that we can create a vision for our lives and for outcomes, and the reticular activation system is going to, you know, align us with things that are happening outside of our own imaginations to bring that into fruition, is just, once you understand the science behind that,
I know, it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
It's so, like, I just want to do it. Just like, we are literally the curators of everything in our lives. There is not one thing that's present in our life right now that we didn't at some point wish for or think of or invite in.
Yeah, that's so true.
So that was my very long-winded discussion about how is yoga actually connected.
That's good. So how do you implement your knowledge of mind and body into your daily practices? So, I mean, obviously you do yoga as well, but from doing yoga and having that mind and body connection, how have you implemented that into your own personal life, or how could you recommend other people implement that?
Do you know, you can spend your entire, and I do, I spend my entire life right now testing different practices and theories and figuring out what works for me. And some things do and some things don't. But a couple of the things that work for me is, before I even get out of bed in the morning, I spend 30 seconds thinking about my future, my vision for the future, like what, and I can smell it, I close my eyes, I lean right into it, I dream about it, I think about it, and I spend 30 seconds doing that. Then I say 3 nice things to myself.
Good. Yeah.
You're awesome. You've got really nice feet today. Like, whatever it might, like, you're really, I don't know, you're really happy, or, you know, you've got something great happening today. So, like, I'm being my own cheerleader. So before now, I don't just say that in my brain up here. Like, thankfully, I live alone. No one can hear me. I say that out loud so that I hear the words. Because, you know, you can think these things in your brain, but until you say the stuff out loud, you know,
and feel it in your body.
And you feel, you know, like mantra brings a certain vibration, and like, I love mantra. It's one of my all-time favorite ways to get into my meditation practice. But you know, that vibration of those words and that positivity really, you know, sometimes I think it's like, you know, the Marie Kondo of the mind. You've got to clean out the brain attic and just what sparks joy.
Exactly.
Like, such a like her genius can be applied not just to your kitchen, but to the brain and to the body, right?
Yeah.
That excess weight is never sparking joy.
No.
Clean it out.
Yeah.
Like ruminations are not sparking joy. Get rid of that shit, right?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
I was thinking about that the other day, like, doing a Marie Kondo of the mind. Anyway,
yeah, I
so
love that. That's
I do,
good.
do those two things first before I get up, and then I'm a coffee addict. So hi, my name's Kit. I need to have a double shot right before I talk to anyone.
I know, but who doesn't, right?
Yeah. So look, I just go. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. I don't have. I eat donuts. I love donuts. So, but my coffee is, I love a good coffee, and I like to go out for my coffee because it's social, and there's a social aspect to doing that. So I really enjoy that. And then I usually teach a class or do a practice. My personal practice goes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half.
Fantastic.
But not everyone has to. That doesn't work for everyone. So when I deliver tutorials, I do them in much smaller segments. So then people can layer those segments together.
Oh, good. And so that's with your program that you do within because you've got a Facebook group, haven't you? Is it like a membership site where people can do, like you teach people?
So Create Your Life by Design is my Facebook group. So anyone can join that Facebook group. And in that group, I talk about tips for bringing more joy into your life, for creating your life by design. So fundamentally, like, my vehicle for creating a life of joy and happiness is yoga, a life in yoga. So I share tutorials in there, so teaching people how to get in and out of shapes and what those shapes do and why we would do them. Then tips and tricks for making your life easier. So there might be like a box breathing for anxiety. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And I will actually breathe with you through that tutorial. And then this week we've been talking about self-talk and how creating really, creating habits that, affect change in your life for the positive start with that self-talk. So, that's been a focus for this week. So, that's some of the tips that you'll find in amongst that. And then I usually use the tutorials, and then I create little mini flows so that, the 25 to 30 minute sequences that combine the things that we've been talking about into actually a practical outcome, so that you've got 25 to 30 minutes on the yoga mat on your rubber rectangle where you go, oh, I understand what she's talking about now because I learnt that earlier this week. And
fantastic. Because I think a lot of people that start out at, doing yoga, they have this kind of feeling of, oh, what if I'm not flexible, or what if I can't do it. It's about that, isn't it? It's about just that first step.
It's such a really like, Instagram has a lot to answer for, in terms of like how threatening the concept of yoga can be. Going back to yoga means union. Like, it could be union between your butt crack and your G-string, or, your thumb and your big toe. Like, like union, it encompasses all of that. But what happens on the rubber rectangle is, it directly unfolds into life. So as you learn to balance and find that calm in the mind, and find a steady gaze and a steady balance, like, how does that relate to my life off the rubber rectangle? Well, when I get into a stressful situation, I'm not going to wobble all over the place. I'm going to find my calm center. I'm going to look around, or I'm going to go, right, this is what we need to do. Let's do it. And come from a place of calm instead of a place of chaos. So it directly relates, but it might not be that obvious when you first start out. But Instagram does have a lot to answer for, because we think that we need to be flexible, or we need to be a certain body type or shape, or whatever the heck it is that, we're feeling insecure about within ourselves at the time. And it's just not the case. like the whole point of going to the practice is to allow your hamstrings to get a little bit longer. So if you're not flexible, it's the exact bloody reason why you should go.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like the less flexible you are, the more you need to get on the mat.
Go. Yeah, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Like I can put my leg behind my head. So do I need to keep doing asana and like going crazy? Yes, because that's my personality and it's what I love doing. And I'm always going to challenge myself in that space. But does 99% of the population need to do that?
No, exactly.
99% doesn't.
Yeah.
99% of the population needs to find something that is sustainable for them in their life, and that's the difference. So if you can get on your rubber rectangle for 15 minutes a day and say, I have done 3 sun salutations, sorry, just knocked a book off the table with the sun. If you can say, I've done 3 sun salutations, I've attempted to touch my toes, and I'm giving Trikonasana a bit of a go. I feel a little bit better about that. And then I'm going to take a Shavasana, a little bit of an adult nap, and then get up and try and sit quietly in meditation for 5 minutes. So that's 20 minutes right there. Job done.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need fancy Lululemon tights.
No.
Here's something, I actually buy all my tights and I buy most of my stuff secondhand.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
You know, I do buy occasional stuff new, but I try and buy it off eBay and recycle things because we don't need to have all that.
Exactly, fancy. That's right. And you know, there's so many different other ways that you can start practicing. And
I teach pajama yoga.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Like, roll out of bed in your PJs and roll onto the mat and have it set up by the side of the bed. I remember the first time I did a pajama yoga video and put it online. Like, it's just I was in a hotel. It was a really dodgy it was a hideous hotel. It looked like it had been built in 1950 and never renovated again. In the boonies of Western Australia somewhere. And I was like, I can't even be bothered getting dressed today. I'm just going to do my yoga in my pajamas.
Oh, that's so good. But what a good concept though. Like people can do that and that's what's amazing. You can do it in the comfort of your home.
Yoga doesn't need anything. It just needs you and your breath. That's
it. I love that.
You don't need a million props. You don't need, props are handy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But a kid's lunchbox. Go and raid your
exactly.
out from underneath and get a lunchbox. I can't tell you how many times I've practiced, forearm stand holding a lunchbox. Because
amazing.
It's about the same size as a block, or a couple of books stacked together. Or, you don't need a bolster, pillow, or a blanket will do the same job. You can just roll it up. Like yoga strap, you don't need a yoga strap. You've got a towel out the back or a tea towel. So good.
Tea towel. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you're coming in to have a chat. Now, I'm going to drop the link down, if that's okay, to your Facebook page. And if anyone wants to get in contact with you to work with you, do you do one-on-one work with people as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually run a transformation program called Creating Life by Design, and that program is 3-month one-on-one coaching.
Fantastic.
So me supporting you, we work through things right through. If you have struggled with finding your passion or knowing what your vision for the future is, we actually go back and we work in that space. And the goal is for you to create a sustainable daily practice. So not to be able to do handstand. I'm never going to, unless you really want to do that. But it's to create a sustainable daily practice. So let's look at what's going on in your life and create something and find the right time slot and the right, the right flow and the right movements for you. And, let's look if you've got injury, like that, about how we are going to create something that's sustainable for you. How we're going to allow that to become a habit that is with you for life. Don't do what I did, have an on-off relationship with yoga for 8 years. That's just a waste of time.
That's right, exactly.
Do something that you can actually, cement into your life and it becomes a part of you, and that enables you to find that joy and happiness. So that's what that program's about. And ultimately you find a whole lot of self-love.
Yeah, well, I'm going to pop your link down below when I post this this interview today, and whoever wants to get in touch with you can. And I know that I'm going to definitely join your Facebook group, and I love doing yoga, so I think that it's been such an honour. Thank you so much, Kat.
You're so very welcome. I really enjoyed being here chatting with you. Thank you so much.
That's okay. Thanks, Kat.